are running out of time here. Let me jump into the a topic that's very hot right now in Kenya, and this is a topic of maandamano. We have seen that Azimio side, and let me say specifically because we have some Azimio members of parliament, Azimio leaders who have said they don't want to take part into this maandamano, but specifically, right, let me call him by his right names, Right Honorable, the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, has called for this mandamanos. Now it's every Monday and Thursday. We've seen the government officials come out, the police specifically come out and say these mandamanos are illegal. So Ndonga, I know they're calling for three main things. The list was long before, and then I think they were doing a survey to see what what people kind of are into. And it came to cost of living, the servers, IEBC. What are your thoughts about this mandamano? And do you think they're legal, and should we allow them to continue? So Engineer Ndonga, and then I'll come to Bonachiraisi for your comments on that, and then come to Alphonse.
Thank you very much, Chaireri. To me, first to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. He claimed he's an engineer. And in engineer, we know we have projects. This is a government which have been in power for a couple of months. So if I can define this specific for Engineer Raila, a project cycle is a set of 5 stages or phases or 4, depend on how you do it. So if I can name them very quick, we have to initiate, which will take a couple of months. Do you have a plan? What is happening? How will it do it? You give it like 3 months on a quick group working 24 hours clock, you initiate on the project. If we are coming to the price of unga, and we have seen that on fertilizer and all this stuff, then there is a planning. The planning also need time on your life cycle. Then you execute. So that's the third phase. Then there is a control before you close that. So on average, on a project, and this is a country, this is not a simple project. If you're working on the, let's take an example of the unga. So the farmers have to get the seed, the farmers have to get the fertilizer, they have to put it in their garden, they have to take, it's April to October, so 5 to 6 months. Then we have to harvest and then get there, then it'll lower the price. So someone who understands project very well, jumping after a few months and demanding you promise this, and there is a way, there is that graph showing. When President Ruto took power, it was 230. I think it was 230 to 250, a packet of unga. Right now, it's 180. That's a great move. That's a very quick move for somebody who took power in August. Actually, he was inaugurated in September. That's only 6 months. And then you are demanding that person to change the standard of living, which you are part of the group that made all that mess. So for them, I think our Prime Minister, our former Prime Minister, he just want to be relevant in politics. But the situation is not favoring him. We have witnessed a lot of MP from Azimio now denouncing this mandamano. So it's like you have been trying to do something with these tactics, and you didn't get any yield, and you still want to try it. It will still fail. What I will remind our former Prime Minister, this is a different guy. This is Dr. William Ruto. He's not Uhuru, he's not Kibaki, he's not Moi, and he is not the Kenyatta Senior. This is Dr. William Samoei Ruto. If he can take his time, he can study who Dr. Samoei Ruto is. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's so amazing that you just mentioned on a point here. After the handshake in 2018, we know where prices were. Every Kenyan knows where unga was by the time we were getting to election. In 28 days to election, they tried to say there was subsidy. Unga was going to be 100 shillings, which never came to be. Just a few spots. The majority of the unga was still at 250. Now we are seeing where unga is without subsidies. So, Wanachiraisi, how can unga be cheaper right now without a subsidy, without money being used for subsidies, yet complain that the cost of living is so high than Uhuru's time, which, or rather the handshake regime. And we are where we are. We have seen farmers get fertilizers that are subsidized, from 7,500 to 3,500 Kenyan shillings. And people are still saying, oh, the cost of living is high. So can you give us, tell us your take about this?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chairman Ireri and Engineer Donka. On this issue, I'll be really, really, really deep on this issue of Mandamano. I'll dissect it a little bit deeper. When elections was done in August 9, Raila Odinga went to the court as provided by the Constitution. He litigated that issue. The court made its findings based on the evidence that was provided. And Raila was a little bit similar at that. He said, oh, I don't agree with the court, but I accept the ruling, but although I don't agree, which is fine. And then he was quiet for some time until when the president came over here and went back. And then when the president went back, he went to Luo Nyanza. He was received very well, was received with a heroic welcome. You could see Governor Orengo, Governor Wanga, and everybody embracing the president like a hero. That's the time things turned around in a serious note. So as a political student myself, I can tell you without contradiction that this has nothing to do with the economy. Economy didn't happen, economic problems of Kenya did not happen yesterday. It did not even happen like last 4 months. It's been a long time coming. This is about what we call political territory protection. When the president went there without Raila, without anybody like him blessing him and received overwhelming reception, it shocked Raila a little bit. He, as a person who has owned that place for a long time, politics is, politicians are like a gang members. They are territorial. They are very territorial. They want to protect their territory. So to do that, he has to create what we call a siege mentality. He creates a siege mentality on his people and projects himself as the Baba that he has called himself. He is the Baba, the protector. So without causing that mandamano and starting to call anyone trying to talk to the president a traitor, the way you saw him kicking out Jalango and everybody. And then his relevance over there fades away. So it's all about political territory protection. And now we go back to the opening of the server and all that. His first cry was like, okay, we are going back to Article 1 of the Constitution, where it says the people can decide all of a sudden to exercise power directly. He is misinterpreting the Constitution. That decision, such a decision, like for the people to decide whether they are being led through representation or exercising power directly, is done way at the beginning of the Constitution. at the beginning of that, like when the constitution is passed, people decide that way. But our people have decided that we are exercising our power through representation. That's why we had elections in 2013. After that promulgation of the new constitution, we also had an election in 2017 and 2022. We concluded that election. We elected MCA, we elected MP, we elected women rep, we elected the governor, and we elected the president. That, by doing so, we were saying we exercise our power through representation. So him now is saying, okay, we are going back as citizens to exercise power directly. But if we have to do that, then the MCA has to go home. The MP has to go home. The governor has to go home because they're exercising power on our behalf, and everybody else. But you cannot just say, we, the people, are choosing one elective office to exercise power directly. But the other ones, we exercise power through representation. That's not what the Constitution says. That's not what Article 1 is saying. That says, let me go to the server, open the server, all that. Article 136 of the Constitution and Article 138 is very clear on how we choose the president and the procedures that follow and the timeline. So elections were done. Grievance procedures was followed to the conclusion within the time frame stipulated. You cannot come back 7 months down the road and say, oh, open the server. Open the server to where? Which court are we going to, like, what are we going to do? Like, who is going to rule on that? Anyway, even if the president at the server was holding the server, how is he going to open? Based on what law? And to what effect? You know? No effect. Okay, let's talk about the server thing. Kenya elections is primarily manual. It's a paper-based ballot where you go and mark a ballot paper and you put in the box. The only time a computer is used is only 2 instances. The time for biometric identification to make sure the person voting is the person registered. And then after tabulation of the manual ballot, the results are scanned to public portal. And the results are scanned after being tabulated into Form 34A and 34B. And it shows up in public portal. So that's where the ruling of the Supreme Court of 2017 guided that all the 34A and 34B tabulated results should be shown in public portal. And whether there are errors or omissions on them, nobody will tamper with, unless the Supreme Court make the adjustments, if any. So this story of server is creating a narrative that there's some secret box which resides inside a server, and if it belonged to Raila and it's hiding in there. There's a whistleblower which told us that. It's a false narrative. It's a false narrative. And it's misleading. It's misleading to a lot of people who either intentionally don't want to peruse the truth, or some of them don't really know for sure. Anyway, I'll leave it to Alphonse and you and Donga to elaborate on how computers work and stuff.
Thank you very much. For me, I'm not an IT person, but I know basic computer stuff. They always say the junk that you put in is the junk that comes out, right? So you have to first put in some junk in if you're saying there's junk that came out, right? But one thing that we already know is elections are done at the polling station. And Alphonse, as you come in, we know Kenya is one of the most legislated countries in the world when it comes to elections. How a paper moves from one hand to the other hand is already in the law, right? When you walk in, what is the first step that you do? It's already in the law. Because in 2017, during the Maraga court, all these things were put and were put and ordered by the court. And we saw Mr. Chebukati follow that law to the latter. And that's what people don't want to hear at this time. So, but actually, tell us about this Mandaman. Is this thing valid? Because we've heard from Engineer Ndonga, we've heard from Bonacheraisi, they've talked about it, the truth of the matter. Is it that Kenyans don't understand this truth, or we're just ignorant of the truth because we want to just hear what our person is saying and what we feel about our person?
Again, thank you again, Chair Reddy, and of course, Sammy, and also Engineer Ndonga. I think you've nailed it on the head, Chair Reddy, that people don't want to listen. And they also, Sammy Reddy, Raisi mentioned that maybe some people really don't know. And so they listen to people. But my take is this, okay, for anybody who really understands. I have an IT background, I got bachelor's in computer science, software engineering specific. So we understand the coding process, the scanning process. We know those digits are translated from bits to whatever, the whole thing happening in the background until the information is passed from that scanner to the software, to sit in the software and then saved up in the server. So all that happens. But whatever is in the server is what was fed in, like you said, junk in, junk out. So our main issue is that what Riley is saying is that what was fed in, what was put into the scanner is wrong information, because when they went to Supreme Court, they didn't challenge. They were not able to provide any evidence that there is a place where the numbers from the scanner, which is the information that was scanned, is different from what is showing in the portal. And what is showing in the portal is what is in the server that they are calling. And it was declared in the Supreme Court in 2017, like Cherais mentioned, that all of it is defined the process. Whatever comes up in the document that Cherais was showing, that anybody who voted, whatever they selected, this is my president, whatever it is, that information is combined for me, for Ireri, for Ndonga, for whatever. They combine who did I vote for. Whatever tally comes up, it's final. Unless people don't want to hear that. But it is final, because that is what will show there. And we know that as the Mio team, they were told, okay, show us numbers that don't match. That was released from the ground that don't match. But I don't want to go through all the details. Everybody, I believe a lot of people know that this is all bogus. It has no merit. Even the other situation they're mentioning about it has to reduce the price of things. I know, and I agree, the president said that I'm going to reduce the price of commodity in 100 days because he had a plan. Remember, the president is an engineer. He said he's going to drop the price, and he even gave a number that he was going to drop the price. But for those people who remember, immediately after they were sworn in, our deputy president came to the TV and he said the coffers are empty. I don't know if anybody remembers that. That meant that it completely disrupted every plan that the president remember, the president has worked in the government. He was an MP since 98, when he was elected the first time. He understands how the government works. He has not been in the shadows. He knows how the government budgets, how whenever you take over the presidency, they're supposed to be whatever the amount. And he knew that I can work with that to lower the price of items to whatever price he wanted to do. So when he came in and everything was empty, that completely disrupted everything. Now Raila, who is the cause of all that, whatever is supposed to be in the coffer, he's coming and saying, oh, he was not able to deliver on the promise that he gave. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that. The IBC officials that is complaining, this is in the law. They are the ones who actually made that law with former President Uhuru Kenyatta. They're the ones who came up with that law, saying that this is how we're going to elect the IBC officials. And the president is just implementing the way it is. Now Raila, who thinks that it didn't work on his favor, which is not true, because the votes were counted and it was sent to the IBC and everything was accurate. He thinks that he wanted to manipulate. Now, he wants to change the whole process. He always likes to change things. But I really don't think anything has merit, in my opinion, in all the three things that he's putting up. And it goes back to what Chiandonga was, Cherais was mentioning, that the president, the Azimio team has no plan. They just want to stay politically relevant in the current. And I think somebody is actually misleading and misadvising our former prime minister. That it has no, there's no actually even exit strategy. There's no way to end it. But having said that, I want to thank the president for coming forward over the weekend and actually speaking up to the country, because the whole country was nervous. Some peace-loving people, they were really nervous. They didn't know what's going to happen Monday now. And then he came back again. And he said Monday and Thursday, and then everybody's getting nervous. But I really thank the president for coming up and calming the country, saying that we are in control, everything is in order, because, we know the media is working against the government. We know that. And they're feeding the country with all these fears. They're following Raila, showing things, what's going on. Second people I really want to thank, and I mean this, is the security people, our security officials from the police department in the whole country, especially Nairobi, Kasarani area, CBD. We really thank them because they showed a lot of restraint. And I remember I was watching, and I think I sent it to some groups that I'm part of. Some of the police officers were being chased away. And these are people with guns. They could actually do anything. But they were being, you cannot do that. There's some countries you cannot chase a police officer with a rock, or you cannot throw a stone to a police officer. They were being chased away, and the police were restrained. They knew, and I don't want to say this because it's really sad, but it looks like, and I really hope that's not the case, but I have to say it for people to really listen, is that it seems that, the former prime minister is setting up the country so that the people can be sacrificed, so that it can create something, a revolution, so that the country can be mad. And I really hope that is not the case, because if people are really putting people's lives on the line for the sake of their own political mileage, you sacrifice a life. And I know you guys agree with me, and also all Kenyans watching this video, that Monday, the whole world was watching Kenya, what's going to happen. All those disruptions, the throwing stones and jumping over fences, destroying people's cars. People were watching. And we never lost any life. And that I really have to commend the police department. We never lost any life. And we know when you chase a police officer with a gun, it could go anywhere. And we didn't lose any life except one young man who, I don't blame him. I believe he's been misled over there in Maseno University student who went to try to, him and other students were trying, they raided the police department, Maseno police department. And they were really breaking in, and I heard they were trying to get into the armory department and all that. And they had to do defense. But I don't know the real details, but that is the only life we lost. And my heart bleeds for that young man who died over there. May his soul rest in peace.